Hello all. In this session, we are going to see what is application security group. Okay, so application security group is nothing but it enables us to group the resources based on the business purpose or based on the application, and then establish the connectivity based on that. So normally, if you take a network security group, we use or we apply rules to connect devices based on the IP addresses, right? So by using application security group, we group different resources, into one group based on their application use case, and then we try to establish the connectivity. So let's look at this diagram so we will understand this, much better. So in this case, we have a virtual network, and in this virtual network, we have two subnets. So subnet 1 has a virtual machine, which has this front-end application. And subnet 2 has this virtual machine, which has its backend or database. Okay. So in this case, the internet or on-premise data center has connectivity established to this VM front end. Okay. So there is no connectivity between this internet or on-premise to the backend. Okay. The idea is, because this database will contain sensitive data, we don't want to expose this virtual machine to the outside world. So that's why, as part of this demo, we'll be creating this VM, this front-end VM with RDP access enabled. RDP is nothing but remote desktop connectivity. This VM, right, we'll be disabling the RDP access, and also we will be disabling this public IP address also, or we will not be creating a public IP address also. Okay. So the main thing to understand here is we create separate groups. It's like application security group. So in this case, for front end, we create a group called ASG-FE. So what will happen? This VM, front end VM, will be associated to be part of this ASG group. In future, if there are any new VMs deployed for additional front end applications, those VMs are also will be associated with this ASG. Okay. Similarly, one more ASG is created. It's called ASG-DB, and this database VM will be associated to this group. Similarly, in future, if there are any more VMs deployed for hosting databases, those also will be added to be part of this group. So now, what will happen in this NSG or network security group, where we define this inbound and outbound rules, right? So in these rules, instead of IP address, we will specify that this application security group should be able to access or should have access over the resources that are part of this application security group. Okay. So just remember, if we just go only with this NSG, we will define the IP address here and say that using this front-end VM, I should be able to access this backend or a database VM. But when we go with ASG, there is no need to mention any IP addresses. In the NSG rules, we'll create a rule to say that the ASG-FE group should be able to access this ASG-DB, which means that the front-end VM should be able to access this database VM. So if you see here, we are not going to expose this IP address of the database to the external world at all. So this is used in many real-time scenarios. So the idea is the users will be working with any applications in the internet, and the internet will reach this VM, front-end VM, and this front-end VM, based on this ASG rules configured, it will write data into this database, or it will run some select queries against this database, etc. Okay, right. So we are going to look into the demo, but before that, I just want to list on the rules that we will be, list on the steps that we will be following as part of the demo. Okay, so the first step is we'll be creating a virtual network with two subnets. Second step, we'll be creating VM-FE. This is like, imagine this is in real time, this will be like to host front-end applications. So in this, RDP and public IP will be enabled and associate it to subnet 1. Then we'll be creating a VM for database. In this, as I said, RDP, that is remote desktop connectivity option, and public IP, both will be disabled, and this will be associated to subnet 2. And then this is the main thing. We'll be creating two application security groups. One group will be called ASG-FE, other will be called ASG-DB. So this ASG-FE in this ASG-FE will be associated to this VM-FE. This is the front end, and this ASG-DB will be associated to this VM-DB VM. Okay, right. So after associating the application security group with respect to VMs, the next step is to configure the network security group rules. In the NSG rule, instead of using IP addresses, we will create a rule to say that this ASG-FE should be able to RDP access this ASG-DB. When I say this, it means that the virtual machine part of this ASG group should have RDP access to the virtual machine which is part of this ASG-DB group. Okay. So then what I will do, I will RDP connect to this VM, front-end VM, because this front-end VM we have the public IP address enabled, right? So I can RDP connect to this front-end VM from my laptop itself using public IP, right? Once I am into this front-end VM, here from this I can connect to the database VM using the private IP address. So that's the steps I'm going to follow. Okay, let's start the demo session. Okay, I'm going to first create a virtual network. Okay, create, sorry, I'm into virtual machines. Let me start with virtual network. Okay, create virtual network. I'm choosing existing resource group. Let me give the name as VNet1. So I'm fine with this US3 IP address. So I'm going to delete this and I'm going to create two subnets. So the IP address space I'm going to give us 10.0.0.0/16. So I'm going to add a subnet. So this is for this is for front-end VM, right? So I'm going to give a subnet hyphen front-end FE hyphen VM. So address range I'm going to specify as 10.0.0.0/24. I'm adding this. I'm going to add one more subnet. So this I'm going to name it as subnet hyphen, this is for database VM. So subnet hyphen DB hyphen VM. So this address range I'm going to specify as 10.0.1.0/24. I'm adding this. Okay, so VNet created, subnet added. Sorry, let me go on with the next steps. All default, no changes. Review create. So validation is going on. Okay, validation passed. Create. Okay, so let this getting deployed in the backend. Let me open another tab so I can start with my virtual machine creation. Okay, so I'm going to the newly opened tab and I'm going to create. I have to create two virtual machines, one for like front end and another one for database. Create virtual machine. Okay, existing resource group, virtual machine name. Let me give this as VM-FE. FE is for front end. So US3 is fine. It's all fine. Image is nothing but your operating system. I'm going to choose Windows Server 2016, and the size is nothing but it contains your vCore and RAM size. So I'm going with this standard DS1 configuration. I have to give my user ID password, so I'm providing that here. Okay, so as I said, this is the front end VM, so public port should be enabled or allowed. Okay, so it is allowed and RDP is also given. So next is disks. It is all fine. Okay, networking. So let me check if virtual network has got deployed. Okay, this is the window. Yeah, so virtual network has got deployed. So let me close this unnecessary window. Okay, so virtual network has got deployed. So I can link my virtual network to this new VM, right? So my virtual network is selected. So because this is front-end VM, I'm going to choose this subnet-FE VM. Yeah. Yes, I want my public IP also for this to be generated. So this is fine. Network security group, I'm going with basic. So yeah, allow selected ports, fine. So next, management. I don't want boot diagnostics. I'm disabling it. Advanced tags, all fine. So running validation. Okay, validation passed. I'm creating this. Okay, so this virtual machine, let it get created in the backend. Meanwhile, let me open the other tab so I can create the second virtual machine for database. Virtual machine, create existing resource group. This VM, I'm going to name it as VM-DB. See, in this, I'm not really going to deploy a database. I'm just trying to explain this demo, considering how in real time this will be done. Okay, so that this is how it will be done in real time. So let's say the users will be running their web applications in the internet. So those will reach this front-end VM. So the front-end VM is like the main interface or main connectivity to the external world. So whatever the applications, queries, or whatever that reaches a front-end VM, that will in turn hit the database VM to run any salad queries or insert any data. And that's how the communication is established. So I'm just trying to explain this with how it is, how it will be done in the real-time scenario. So for a good understanding. Okay. Okay. So let's continue with the database VM creation. It's all fine. I'm just going to select Windows Server 2016 operating system. What happened? Why my image is not getting listed? Okay. I don't know, for some reason I'm not able to see this image. Okay, let me select one image and let me select other image again. Sometimes it happens. 2016 data center Gen 2. Okay, fine. So yeah, I selected the operating system to be Windows Server 2016. Size is DS1. Have you user ID password? Okay, so now the main thing. So I don't want to expose the IP address or the RDP port of database VM to the outside world, right? So I'm going to make this as none. So the inbound port also has got disabled. Going to next disks. Okay, next main thing, networking. So VNet 1 has been selected. Yes, I want the subnet DBVM. And another important thing, I don't want to generate the IP address, I mean the public IP address at all. So I'm specifying it as none because I don't want this to be exposed, because this database in real time will have sensitive data or critical data. So that doesn't have to be exposed to the outside world or internet or anything, right? So with that perspective, I'm setting this public IP to be none. So this is all fine. Okay, none, it's fine. Next, I'm going to management, disabling the boot diagnostics, advanced tags, review create. Okay, final validation is running. Okay, validation passed. I'm creating the database VM. Now, let's go to the other tab to see if the front-end VM has got created. Yes, front-end VM has got deployed. So I'm just going to the resource here. So if you see here, this front-end VM, as you know, I had enabled this public IP because this is like a this is a VM which will have the connectivity to the internet, and from here we will be connecting to the database VM. So this is enabled, which is fine. So let the other VM get created in the backend. Meanwhile, let me go to the next step, which is creation of application security groups, right? So I'm going to search for, okay, already I have searched. If not, you can type here application security group and you can select that. I'm going to create now two ASG, one for database VM, one for front-end VM, right? Okay, so I'm selecting the resource group, going to give this name as ASG-FE, that is front-end. So then it's all straightforward steps. Okay, validation passed. I'm creating this. Sorry. Okay, let me see meanwhile if the VM database VM has got created. So deployment is still in progress. Okay. Okay, so first ASG has got created. Let me create the second ASG. Okay. So first ASG for front end, second ASG is for database VM. Okay, so this going to create. Okay, this I'm going to name it as ASG-DB database West US3. Okay, all fine. Create. Okay, let this get created in the back end. Okay, so this database virtual machine has got created. Now let me go to the resource, or let me go to home, and I will show you the two virtual machines. So you will know that because we didn't enable the IP address, the public IP address of VMDB, right? So you can see there is no public IP address here. Only the public IP address is available for front end. So because we are going to expose only this front end VM's IP address to internet or on-premise data center. So, and then from this VMFE, we'll be trying to connect to this VMDB. That's the idea, right? Okay, so I have copied this IP address. Right, now let me go to the next tab to see if ASG got completed. It is completed. Okay, so we have created two ASGs. The next step is I want to associate those two ASGs to the virtual machines. When I say virtual machines, this ASG gets associated to the network interface or NIC of these virtual machines. I'll show that step. Before that, I'll just show you this application security groups. You can see these two ASG, right? Right. Now to associate the virtual machines to this ASG, I'm going again to this virtual machines, clicking on first front end VM, and I'll have to go to, whenever you're going to work with NSG, ASG, IP addresses, you'll have to go to this networking blade only always. So I'm clicking on this networking blade. Okay. So here you see application security groups. Select that and configure it. So I'll have to select ASG-FE. Save. See what is the message you see? Modifying application security group associated to network interface. So whenever you are making any change, it's all related to the network interface within the virtual machine. Okay. Okay, successfully updated. Now let me do the same for other virtual machine. VMDB, networking tab, or blade, application security groups, configure it, and add the ASG-DB. Save. Okay, so let this get added. Meanwhile, let me go to the list of activities and see what we have done so far. So we have created a virtual network with two subnets, VM-FE, that is the front-end VM created and associated subnet to subnet 1. DB VM has been created and associated to subnet 2. We have created two application security groups, ASG-FE and ASG-DB, and we also have associated those two ASG groups to the respective VMs. So we have completed all these steps. So this is these two are the pending steps to be done, right? Okay, let's do that. So what this steps is, in the NSG of front-end VM, I will have to add a new NSG rule to say that, or to allow the RDP connectivity from application security group FE to the application security group DB. So we are not going to use IP addresses here to define the NSG rules. Rather, we are going to provide this access just by using the application security group name. Okay, yeah, let's see that. Okay, so this is also done. Now, see, this is the flow. Imagine like this: the application will be getting the data from internet. That internet will connect to the VM, that is the front-end VM. Then the front-end VM will connect to the database VM, because the database VM's public IP address is not generated. So the external world, let it be internet or on-premise data center, will first reach the front-end VM. Okay, then front-end VM, using the private IP address of database VM, it will reach the database VM to select data or insert data or whatever. Okay, that is the scenario here. Okay, now let me go to the virtual machines and select VM-FE, because I want to define a rule, NSG rule, from here to reach the database VM, right? So I have to add a new rule. So I'm going to networking here. I'm going to add a new inbound port rule. Okay, so this is a very important thing here. Normally, if you are using NSG, we will go with IP addresses. But in this case, we are going to use it based on application security group. I'm selecting this. So I'm going to say which ASG should I start with. So ASG-FE. Okay, source port ranges. Okay, it's fine. It depends on the client machines. So I'm going to give a star. So destination also can be any. Oh, sorry, no. Destination also should be based on your application security group only. So I'm selecting that. So what is your destination here? It is a database VM. So the database VM belongs to which application security group? That is one I have to select here. So it is ASG-DB. Okay, so service is fine, custom. Destination port is very important. So the port number is 3389. That is the port number for RDP connection. Okay, so the type of the protocol is TCP, but you can go with any also. But anyway, I know that it is TCP. I'm selecting TCP here. Action is of course to allow. So priority. Okay, so let me take this is the highest priority. So already that priority is 300. So let me give it as 200. As I had explained in another video, whenever the priority is low, that particular rule with lower priority gets the higher precedence. That's how it works. Okay, so in this I'm going to say allow. Okay, so ASG_FE to RDP underscore ASG_DB. So I'm just trying to give a name that can be understood. So you can pick your own names. So what I'm trying to say is, I'm creating a rule which will allow ASG_FE to RDP. The ASG_DB is resource or virtual machines. Okay, so it's all fine. Now I'm going to add this rule. Okay, so now after doing this, what will happen is, the connectivity between the front-end VM and the database VM should have got established. So let's verify that by logging into the respective VMs. So I already had copied the IP address of front-end VM. So what I'm going to do, okay, sorry, I'm going to use that and connect here. So I have to use the ID password which I would have configured during VM creation, right? Yeah, I'll have to use that. Okay, so it is connecting to front-end VM now. Okay, so I have connected using the public IP address to the front end VM. Okay, so now the idea is this front end VM should be able to communicate to the database VM using the Azure's private IP address, correct? So for that, I'm going to open another remote desktop session from this front end VM. So I'm opening another remote desktop connection. So I'll have to give the IP address of my private IP address of my database VM. I know that IP address, which is 10.0.0. 0.0.1, 10.0.1 okay, let me copy the IP address. Sometimes it is a bit confusing or I can't remember. Okay, so I want the private IP address of database VM, which is okay 10.0.1.4. Okay, 10.0.1.4. Okay, connect. Okay, so it is connecting now. So yeah, so that's it. So that's how we use ASG to connect from one group of machines or devices to another group of devices or machines, right? So if you just remember what we have done here, we have created two groups. In one group, we are adding a set of virtual machines. In another group, we will be adding another set of virtual machines. And based on this group level, we are setting this, permission in the NSG traffic rules. So that's how the connectivity is getting established. Okay. So yeah. So sorry. Okay. So yeah, if you see here, it is clear that first I connected using the public IP address of front end VM. Then within this, after adding this ASG rule, I'm able to use the private IP address of my database VM and connect. So of course the connectivity is working. Okay. So that's how the ASG works. So just to show the diagram, and I'll complete this session. So it is pretty clear for you guys. Let me minimize this and go to the diagram. So in real time, this is how this connectivity will be set up. So there will be this internet or on-premise data center where users would be using any applications, and that would be connecting to this front-end VMs. And this front-end VM in turn will be communicating to this backend or database VM based on this NSG rule. So, and the main thing is the public IP address of this database VM will not be exposed to the outside world. And what will happen? This NSG rules, rather than using IP addresses, the rules will be configured based on the application security group. So in future, if there are any more new virtual machines deployed with additional front-end applications, those also will get added to this ASG group. Similarly, in future, if there are any additional database VMs that gets deployed, those also will get added to this ASG group. So in that case, automatically, right, this NSG rule, whichever is configured, would be able to handle this additional machines that gets deployed. Okay, so hope you found this session useful and you were able to understand something about the ASG. Catch you guys in the next session. Thank you so much. Bye.